Hello, hi.
Hey,
Let
hey,
me see,
Dana.
how is it looking on the other side? It's still loading, so hopefully there will be more of us joining in a moment. If you're here, drop a comment so we see that the technology is doing its job. Welcome on the very, very first real bridge that
Yay.
has been the concept of we've been discussing for a while now. So very, very excited to welcome everyone with us today. Let's see who's with us today. Hi, Marco. Hi, John. Very nice. Looks like it's working. We're live.
Hey.
Fantastic. Carmen, Maria. All right, off we go. So, hi everyone. Dana Rollinger here with my very first real bridge. So, what I have been thinking on dreaming of and fantasizing what it would be like to have my own little live sessions with leaders I admire and would love to share with you all. We're here. Patricia Andrade is here with me today. I am super, super excited to have her talk to us all today about a topic that could and should be the most relevant today on everyone's mind. How do we stay learning, growing, developing, not only developing our agents and our technology, but also ourselves as humans, as leaders, as professionals? So, this topic is very, very personal, very dear to me. Hope it will be interesting for all of you as well. And Patricia, I am eager to get you speaking so we can all learn from you and understand more. Who are you? What's been your story? Where are you coming from in terms of how did you land where you are, and why is learning and development such an important part of your life?
Well, thank you, Dana, for having me. First of all, thanks to everybody showing up today. Hopefully, you'll get a lot from this session. And like Dana mentioned, I think my path is not at all linear. So, what I do today has nothing to do with where I started, which I think is the story of a lot of millennials, if we can put it this way. And so, right now, I work as a talent management, especially in talent development, which is learning and development, creating big trainings facing the business, but also upskilling and reskilling strategies internally, and working with a lot also private clients to develop personalized learning strategies. But how did I get here? I think that's a more important question. It started without knowing what I wanted to do for school. So I started in like I think anybody in my class that didn't know what they wanted to do, they went to business school. So I started with the aspiration of going to business university, but a part of me was really eager to travel abroad. So I ended up doing an exchange program in the US. And that's where my sort of professional life started. So I learned English. I started dipping into university programs there, had a lot of odd jobs. And when I was transitioning countries, so moving between the US and Switzerland, I decided to do a teaching certificate to teach English to second as a second language tool. And I thought I did this as just as a transitional tool, but it turned out to be the love of my life. So basically, when I I just realized I fell in love with the art of designing learning and instruction. And I knew a part of me wanted to do this. But again, as a good employee, I went to business school when I came to Switzerland. I then started working in companies to teach language, and I started coupling the love of um, companies, so businesses and learning. And then I start seeing more clearly what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So I ended up taking a break. So in a series of odd jobs, I started a corporate job, not in learning, moved into learning much later, and then decided to go back to university and upskill and really formalizing education, which is not necessarily a path, but for me was something I needed. And so that's how I landed here. So I did a series of trials and errors, and yeah, it's like a patchwork career style.
Patchwork, I like that. My preferred
Yeah,
way to call it
patchwork.
is a squiggly career. This is totally how I see my progression into where I am. I am nowhere near done. There's plenty of squiggles and falls and raises to be made, and in fact I'm very excited about it. And thank you for sharing your story, Patricia. And I think what I want to pick on what you just said is that you were just exploring, right? You were on your way to understand, okay, what works, what doesn't work. Now I know for a fact, and I hear this every day, people go, oh, I made a mistake, and I took the wrong job, or the wrong path. How do I fix it? Now, your experience, how do you see this?
I think there's no such a thing as mistakes, right? It's like a detour. Like we were saying, I think you do things, and if you have the mindset, I can learn something from this experience, you're always winning. So I think it's a matter of reframing the experience entirely. And guess what? I think that there's a lot of trends out there that shows that we're going to make multiple mistakes because careers are expanding, right? So we are living longer. That's a fact. I think is one of the mega trends I want to bring to the table. Career spans are much longer and are expected to be longer. So we have the flexibility to make so-called quote unquote mistakes, which I think is also the way we learn the most about ourselves and about the opportunities out there. And to be frank, like connecting back to my own journey, I think I learned a lot just by taking opportunities that did not feel congruent at the time, right? It didn't feel aligned to where I wanted to go, but it turned out to be the best things because either I made connections, so I gained exposure, I learned what I definitely didn't want to do, or learned things that I didn't know about myself that built skills and capabilities that I use today in my very job. So
Yeah. And you mentioned trends. What other trends do you see in this space, Patricia?
yeah. So I mentioned trends because I think there's no way to talk about learning and development and frankly about anything without looking at what's happening at the macro level, right? So I think some of the mega trends that we see that is cross industry, it's really global, are a few. So definitely we live in a very complex world, very interconnected, right? So it shapes how we do business, it shapes how we interact with each other, and it shapes the labor market and how we develop and how companies are also transforming the way they do business in general. With that, we also see technology advancing extremely fast. We can't keep up with all the technology that's coming in. So AI is a big deal. Um, so automation and other technology, so robotics, but also we're seeing the transformation of how information itself is currency, right? Data driven decision and business models. So we also have geopolitical and geoeconomic tensions that influences how business is done, that influences how we work, that influences what skills and capabilities are required, and how we evolve. So I think it's all interconnected. There is a couple of other things that I want to mention because sometimes it's too high level or it's too far for people to connect the dots. But we have a demographic challenge, right? So demographic is changing. People are living longer. That influences how we should be upskilling and reskilling in the long run, how companies are staffed. Um, or not companies, but how the market labor works. We also have a lot of transformation in the geopolitical and geoeconomic environment towards sustainability and climate changes that influence policies, that influences the whole thing, right? So I say this because even though those are mega trends, it has an impact on the individual level, right? So we get to feel the tension. We get to feel either perceived in indirect impacts, right, to our own personal situation or that of our friends and colleagues. but also anecdotally, right? AI is going to take your job, for example. Or if AI doesn't take your job, someone that knows AI will. So you see all of these anecdotal thoughts being shared, but we don't stop to think, okay, what does this really mean? What is happening and how fast things are changed and separate fact from myth in a way.
And I like that point because for sure, if you talk to anyone who's anywhere linked to talent acquisition or recruitment, they're the first ones to say, "Hey, our jobs are going. There's no question if, it's a question when." Right? So people are kind of and I think nobody is disputing that they will change. The role of recruitment will change, how we will recruit and who we will recruit, no doubt is going to change. But I think people tend to generalize and really maybe take it out of proportion a little bit. So if there are others on this call, Patricia, that you think, you know, and I know that there's very likely others on this call that will say, well, my job as I see it is very likely to be replaced by genetic AI, or, I am already seeing first signs. I am eager to hear, how do you feel if I am in that position right now? What do I do? How do I mean, sure, no doubt nobody's questioning. We're all going out, we're learning Gen AI, we are understanding how systems work, we are, trying our best. And I'm saying trying because none of us can truly know what's going to happen and how this is going to evolve. But, doing our best to stay up to date, understand what is going on, and how is this moving and changing, and how can I, upskill and learn new things and move with the way it's developing. But how would you advise somebody who has that worry and stress and potentially a bit of a freeze, because I will not, I still have my day job, I still need to keep it. How do I run and learn everything?
And that's a great one. I think that's also where I get a lot of questions. There's definitely challenges. I think you hit the nail, right? So there is going to be a lot of disruption. We already seeing there's a lot of changes happening at level of work. So what has to be done, because businesses are evolving, so they have to solve different kind of problems for their clients. So they also require this change, right? So automation, robotics, all of this coming in and influencing how we work. Now that's why I think his skills become extremely relevant, because some of those trends as well, if we really take at the individual level, is you have a lot of models suggesting that a skill-based workforce is much more adapted to the conditions that we have nowadays than rigid job IDs, job descriptions, right? So there is this layer. And then how do you do at a personal level? I would say you really start with, okay, what am I doing here? But what is the value that I bring, right? So what is the piece that is absolutely human, that requires human to oversee what the technology does, for example, in any given role? And how do I continue to add value, or how do I rethink my skill sets, right? So what do I need to learn to complement what AI is going to overtake? And how do I keep this still under human, um, I don't want to say management, but there should be a human oversight, right? So it's becoming, actually looking at skills as a meta, um, looking at skill and capabilities as a meta way to approach your development. So you really look at, okay, I have a certain skill set, what is worth investing? And I think we're going to dig into this a little bit more, like what is the strategy behind. But I think at an individual level is understand what you're doing, how you bring value, learning how to articulate that, and really creating a plan that is tailored to you, right? Because AI is going to solve a lot of problems, automation is going to come in, but what should stay human? How do you start negotiating that in, or actually demonstrating value through your own skill sets, right? Which is a lot of the soft skills, or calling now human skills. And
I
I don't
love
know if
that.
I
And
answer, but there's a lot to be covered there.
yeah, you know what I want to add to this, and I agree. But there's one thing that I think is important to add as a yes and to this
Mm,
is and this is something that I've previously also mentioned in some keynotes that I did, was what is it that me, and let's put aside all the rest of the world and technology, what is it that I love doing and I see that, I truly enjoy, and that's my spark. I'm great at it and I'm bringing value to others at around me. And oftentimes I find, even in when I talk to so many truly experienced leaders, you have a conversation with them or an interview or whatever it is, and at some point you hit a point when you see their face light up,
Yeah.
and you it's visible, it's truly visible, and you see their face light up, and when they start talking about it, you can see this is where their heart is.
Yeah.
This is what they
Yeah.
would do if they would not get paid for it, right? And if you know where your passion is such a word that we use left and right. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit more than that. I think it's that golden middle where the passion, talent, and value for others meet, and this
Yep.
is where you really can excel. And then you go, well, but what if that's a point that others can do, or it can be replaced by technology? Well, I think you still should pursue it, if you ask me. And I'm
Yeah.
curious to hear how you see it, because I think that piece combined with, possibly more uh, popular demand skills, or whatever it is, I think that will be your unique selling point, for the lack of a better description. I think that
Yes.
should be something that you use as a complete base layer for you to find that
Yeah.
niche for you.
I'm so glad you brought this point because I couldn't agree more, right? I didn't want to bring that in too soon, but in reality, it's probably where the questions start, right? What is it that I'm, for lack of a better word, passionate about? How do I bring value through this? And even if you don't, I think it's also about connecting to what makes my heart sing, to the point that you made, and then really going on this it's a self-reflective exercise, really, right? So what are my values? Where am I in my life, in my career? How do I connect the dots between this and what I would like to do and continue to add value, and then pursue the right opportunities to develop yourself? And I say this because there's two trends conforming this, and I only bring those trends because it's not, sometimes we think it's only me going through the struggle of trying to figure things out, but it's not. I think it's happening across the board. If you think nowadays, most millennials, Gen Z, and not to exclude, but we have a different relationship to work, right? So, like, to the point where make careers are no longer linear because we are finding that maybe this approach to this ladder, climbing the ladder, and a job title is no longer fulfilling, right? There's more to financial compensation. Maybe you want to be developed, you want to find purpose in what you do. You might value flexibility above a paycheck. So I think there's a lot of dynamics there that we have to consider. And if we start with your own self awareness, like, where do I stand? What do I truly value? So, to the point you're making, Dana, what are my values? What are my passion? What would I do without money? And for me, I hopefully you can see the enthusiasm. I love learning so much that I know I would do it for free. I do it for free actually because I love it. So I think it's really, to the point you made, is starting there, but then also being strategic. I don't think, what I see right now with a lot of people I interact with is this. Because people are panicking, AI is going to take my job. I have to get on the AI train. People tend to just start upskilling, right? So let me go learn about AI. So they pursue certifications, or they go to formal educations, or they take trainings after trainings. And that end up being like a level one sort of approach where you're just consuming content. But then when it comes to transferring that knowledge and turning this into something that you can use, is hard. So I would say take a breath, you start with yourself, and then start thinking, okay, what is the most strategic way to approach development, not just in AI, but in any area that's going to yield the most growth, like the return on investment, right? Because we know time is limited. people energy is limited, right? Resources, financial resources can be limited. So where you invest your energy to upskill, reskill, or to develop and grow should be where you getting the most return from. So I think that there's also this aspect to that. There's like a little formula, but
Okay, but let's imagine I'm in panic. I don't know what else could I learn. How do I find out? How do I pick the right course or the right, you know, area to explore, to read about, to learn from others? And yes,
yeah,
let's imagine I know where my strong point is, the one that I really want to build on and continue developing on. But I think in the abundance of everything
yeah.
right now, the way I see it, all the barriers are gone. Like the world
Oh
is
yes,
yours. You can do anything, right? I
yeah,
mean, if I decide tomorrow to 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 quit everything I do and create a women's retreat center on the outskirts of Zurich, right, where professional women can come together and build a community, I could do it, right? There's nothing
you
that's
can do
keeping
it.
me from it.
No,
So I'm trying to think, how do we slice this, and how do I find which path is correct one for me?
yeah. So a couple of things I think that I want to for us to consider. And it's a conversation. So if anybody has comments or questions, please bring it on. But I think again, is having this sense of where am I trying to go, even just directionally, right? I don't think you need to know, look, I want to be here in 5 years and then there. It's hard enough to plan with enough uncertainty out there. So it's more directionally where you want to go. And instead of thinking, what courses should I take? It's more about what is the return? So, meaning, is it content that's going to move the needle for me? So, it's more education that I need right now at this stage in my life. So, that's why I think that self assessment is essential. And then understanding where you want to go. And then really just designing small steps to get there. So, it doesn't have to be too elaborate, right? It just should be like, what do I need right now to move the needle in the right direction? Is this more education, which is courses, certifications, whatever, right? As you say, it's unlimited out there.
Mm.
Or is this experience? Do I need to build experiences in the areas that I think I need to strengthen in either my passion or my current job? Or is it exposure that I need in a new field that I don't know anything about, or to people, to network? I mean, I learned so much from my network. I think that we undervalue the power of just conversations like this, right? To learn, because they directionally can help you decide. So I think it's that mix that I talk about. We have to be more intentional and maybe strategic about where do you invest time and focus on that. And over a certain time, and I think it's also a trial and error. You have to experiment with it. It's very personal, and so you should make it fun, and you should make about your growth, right? Which brings me to another topic that I really need to emphasize to everybody. Do not outsource your development. There is a lot of conversations about, oh, because my manager should be promoting me, he should be. Don't outsource it. You own it. Have this mindset of being a CEO. You have a vision, you drive that vision, you eliminate the distractions because you're so focused on what moves you, right? With the capabilities that you can and that you can leverage. And think about that, right? And the same for AI. Don't leverage your development to AI, because I also see a lot
I was
of this
about to ask.
narrative. My AI can teach me things that I was like, yes, it can support you. It's a thought partner, but you should keep the judgment piece, the critical thinking, the decision making, right? We cannot outsource everything or just blindly consume that information. So I think that there is a balance to be drawn here.
Yeah, Catherine is asking, how do you get exposure if you do not have experience?
Oh, it's easy. You first of all, being here is exposure. And really, I think that's a great one because what I often see in the conversations that I have, um, people, I think we have a certain idea of what exposure could mean. But examples that I give people that always surprise everybody, it's just reaching out to your LinkedIn network. Grab a colleague for coffee to learn what they do, right? If it is something that interests you. proposing a grow gig. Like when I say a grow gig, I mean something that will help you grow as a project. So, for example, we are also in a gig economy where you can offer your skill sets or you can learn something from somewhere else as a currency, right? So I could say, Dana, I
Kind of
want
a
to learn
language
more about what you
exchange
do.
sort of thing,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
job shadowing is another one, or simply volunteering. I think volunteering can bring so much exposure to areas, to people. So, also asking your friends to introduce, if it's exposure to people, asking your friends to introduce you to someone in their network. Like, really, I think it also requires not being afraid to just try things and see what pans off. But that's one
Yeah,
way, right? There are probably many different ways to
yeah.
that.
I heard, and I'm still gonna double click on this because I know that people keep asking me about it. Um, about you said do not outsource your learning to AI. So, but I'm sure you can use it for, prompting, where's your blind spots? What other areas can I learn? I have explored this and this and this. Anything else that I could do in order to get there? Any
Yes.
other routes or ideas?
Absolutely a lot. And I think you really mentioned, right? There is a power in AI that AI can bring to your development once you yourself already know where you're trying to go. So now it's about integrating that into how you get there, right? So it's almost like help me build this roadmap, right? So I think it's a great thought partner. It will cut down on maybe the amount of research you have to do. So, for example, if we were just thinking of this mix that I described of education, exposure, and experience, maybe it's about, hey, where do you think I need more experience if I want to go in this area, and seeing what it comes up with, and then being the judge of that. On top of that, I think if we're talking about how do you actually use it to develop, you can also use different prompts to help you use micro learnings right in your day to day. How do you create this continuous learning mindset, which is something we didn't talk about, but I think is also one of the skills I would bet as a must have. Yeah, so hopefully I answered a bit of, and I think you should integrate AI. I'm not anti AI. I think just don't say, "Oh, this can do it for me." If I consume enough content, I will know. No, there it takes really, yeah, a bit more, yeah, muscles into it.
Okay, all right. Well, you said continuous learning mindset, and Hannah is asking from your experience, what is one skill or a key skill you've seen that really differentiates people who continue to grow from those that tend to plateau? Now, if you ask me, and then I'll hand it over to you. For me, this is the growth mindset and curiosity. If you combine these two, there's nothing that can stay in your way, because if you continuously trying to understand why is this way, how does this work, why are we doing things this way and not the other way? I think this is a key skill that you really help you to grow and develop, because you will always learn, because you will always continue to explore and further stretch the environment.
Yeah.
Patricia.
So I love what you mentioned. I think curiosity, definitely growth mindset, absolutely right. We can always evolve. And why I would still add lifelong learning or this continuous learning mindset is because it sort of helps. If you stay curious, it's one thing. But if you learn how to learn consistently and systematic, you can then absolutely just tackle anything, right? And couple that with the growth mindset of like, hey, there is no such a thing as a mistake. I learned from it. Then you really have a winning trinity. I would say the trinity of skills: curiosity, yes, a growth mindset because that supports, and then continuous learning as a way to execute. And I say that because also continuous learning is not just like, oh, my preferences of how I learn. No, it's how do I capitalize on the learnings? Because the truth is, we humans are learning machines. Like you are learning all the time. But sometimes what I see also, there is a gap between the learning and how you articulate that learning, right? And you can see this when people are talking about their experience. I have a lot of those conversations, and it's extremely fascinating. You see people doing brilliant work, but when it comes to
And
articulating the value, they struggle, right? Because they're not capitalizing on that learning fully. Sorry.
now you're talking about my job and my learnings on the job. Absolutely. And I tell you what, the most successful, the most senior, amazing, talented leaders that I've spoken to, they absolutely have zero problem to say, "Oh, I learned the hard way, and this is what I did." Right?
Yeah.
These are the awful mistakes that I did. They even call it that way. I made mistakes and I learned the hard way, but right now that makes me stronger than I've ever been.
Yeah.
um, and selling this and representing what it means and how you went from strength to strength is exactly what they do. And this ties in very nicely with Eduardo's comment. He says about mistakes and failures. Sometimes I feel I try so hard to soften it, and it gets in the way of learning through these experiences,
Right
right? So
on.
we try to present it nicely, but actually all we need to do is just acknowledge what happened, learn from it, and ensure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah,
Something else will happen. There's no doubt about that.
absolutely. All this conversation is marvelous.
Yeah, keep those questions coming. Really, really wonderful questions that tie into to the discussion really well. Now, Patricia, I'm mindful. I want to leave more space for the questions from the audience, but there's one more thing that I would love to learn from you is about how do we go about the bigger, if we zoom out from all of these little things that we've been discussing, and there's plenty for sure, but how do we build the framework? And I heard you said micro learning, but how do I build the framework if I am the driver of my career and my growth? How do I build this framework of how do I go about it? I know
Yeah.
that a lot of employers and organizations provide support and provide the material, or not, or and you're left on your own learning. um, but how do I go about building this?
Yeah. So that's a wonderful question, and I think so. There's not like I don't think I have the answer, but one of the things I can offer is lead with curiosity. I think you really struck a chord when you say that, because if you're curious about everything, about every interaction, you start already asking questions that will lead into natural learning, right? We're learning from the environment all the time. If we were to think about this more structured and we were to leverage a framework, I think a good one is this 3 E's. And just to level set what that is very quickly is an E for education, so formal education, the certifications, the schooling, that's account for 10% of how you learn, how you acquire knowledge. Then you would have experience. That's about 70% of how you actually integrate learning, is a higher mode of learning. And then you have exposure. That's 20% of how we develop and grow. So if you combine all of those elements, you find the right mix for you at a given time frame, because I also think you should bound yourself to time. Don't think of development as, I think, is a continuous thing and is forever, because our career spans are much longer, right? But I think it's about right now, what am I going to accomplish in year 2026, and where is my time, energy, and resources better invest? Should I go take a training and couple that, let's say I'll just do an e-learning on my own, and then how do I find opportunities to practice this, right? To experience that, to grow the learning through experience. Negotiate that on the job, right? I think a lot of the discussions I have as well, oh, I don't have time to put learning on top of it. No, make it part of your day-to-day work. Learning is integral to what you do, right? We expect it to learn. So negotiate that in. Take an extra assignment, right? raise your hand for a project. So I think it's really finding and creating those opportunities and even negotiating that in with yourself, with your partner, with your employer. So I think there's many ways. And I think, again, tap into creativity, right? So how can I learn more and faster? Talk to your children. I think for those of you who have children, you learn so much from kids, just the way they see things different, right? So you can capitalize on any interaction basically to learn something, as long as it keeps you directionally where you want to go. Because I think the tendency is to just try to do everything, and directionally you might be wasting effort. So yeah, hopefully I
So
didn't
kind of,
extend.
yeah, no, no, I love the three E's. I think this really encompasses wonderfully kind of a way to structure and I guess I have been doing that, just not knowing the, you know, how it all
Thought.
comes together. But just going intuitively that, you know, what I get from each sort of exposure or experience or learning, because all of that at the end we just bring back learning and kind of stretching ourselves. But one concept that I'm very curious about, Patricia, is and somehow recently even more so is unlearning.
Oh, yes, that's a good one. I think we've been hearing that a lot. And I think it's so if we really think of what unlearning is so first of all, I think it's very important right now because of the old models that we had to solve problems, to deal with businesses, to manage talent, right? They no longer serve us. So unlearning means, can I challenge my own mental models, right? And think beyond what I thought was true. And that goes for everything, every single area, I think, of our lives. And this concept of unlearning is really, so you see this concept tied in with innovation, so entrepreneurship. So, and I think we should tap more in that spirit because that allows fluidity. So that's one of those skills that is fluid. If you can unlearn concepts and mental models that you've made of certain things, of maybe how the world works, how the development works, even, right? I think development is like this. No, forget that. So what other ways are out there to explore? And yeah, it just keeps you in that more innovative way of looking at the world. um, yeah, so I think that's what I can say about this concept, but I think there is enough research out there that would encourage people to check. We would definitely share links, not just on the concept of unlearning, right? But there is plenty of research. If you're interested, I can share.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm sure that those that want to do a little bit more reading, that would be interesting to see what you recommend for us to learn more on the concept of learning.
Yes. And
And I
can
love
I
what,
say one thing to
yeah,
unlearn? Because I think
yeah,
that's something worth saying. There is definitely a lot of like people are saying, what are the skills of the future? What should I be focusing on? And I think it's like, if I can put it on a on a little sentence, is keep it human, right? So what are the human skills you can tap into that are worth investing? So for example, emotional intelligence going to be extremely relevant. Judgment, like thinking critically about um, things and how you solve problems. Thinking in systems, like because we are evolving, right? Things are hardly black and white. Things are complex. Work with learn from peers. I think that's also underrated. How much you can learn from a think tank or from interactions in a project group, how others solve problems. So diversify your group and those around you to tap into the opportunity to learn and like to take your skill sets to another level. But I would bet on human skills and thinking like in patterns, right? Because it's how we the world is evolving and it's so much more complex where you require that. Yeah.
yeah,
I saw a
yeah.
comment, but
What are you learning, Patricia, these days? What's on top of your list?
I'm learning everything. Like I love learning. I think sometimes I get on my own way because I myself get scattered, right? But right now I'm learning about systems, like systems thinking. How do I recognize more patterns around me? How do I connect the dots? So that's definitely one. I'm also learning how to raise a toddler, which is it's very hard. And yes, learning how to drive my development, but in more meaningful ways. So like I know how to do this, how to support others, but sometimes, as I mentioned, I get on my own way. So like curating my learnings, but system thinking is big on my mind. Yeah, and then busy with raising a child.
Yeah, yeah. And I know from experience that books are not greatly helpful when you have a unique personality in front of you. But Hannah is asking about unlearning, what you've had to unlearn in your own career to continue growing. And
I love
it's
that.
an interesting question because I was thinking for myself, and I think I probably have unlearned equal amounts of ways of thinking and working than what I had to learn. Because even though there is no limit how much you can learn, I think there is in certain ways you need to offload something to bring on new ways and new approaches. And for me, that most definitely were times when I changed industries, which I've done a fair amount of times, changed countries because there are different ways of working and collaborating and communicating. When I changed from being a stay-at-home mom to joining a Fortune 50 company, that was no mean feat. I tell you, I had to unlearn, paying attention to funny signals and just had to really focus on what the work and deliverables I had to do. So I think curious to hear about your most impactful unlearning experiences. But for me, I think it was really these transitions. And you know what, the more transitions I made and the more diverse transitions I made, the easier every next one got, because you
Right?
go like,
Love
okay,
that.
I've done this before.
Yeah, the integration, right? Now you can apply learning to a different context. And one of the highest forms also of learning when you can apply it to a different context. And I love that. So for me, Hannah, it's in I love what you shared because I think in some ways it's the same because I had so many transitions and that just kept opening my mind and my mental models got expanded, right? So I kept adding other ways of doing things. But one that I really had to unlearn was even that like this idea of a linear career. So I think for a big portion of my adult life and my working career life, I had this thought that I wanted a very linear career. But then I realized through experience that it wasn't linear at all, and that was just fine. And I had to redefine success for myself. And that was huge because once I freed myself from the expectations of moving from this role to this role, even though I have certain aspirations, I freed myself from having to more like where what's my heart calling for and where should I actually push in terms of the experiences I'm building. So for me that was the big unlearning. Like
Yeah. And Catherine is asking, she's working in public sector and she's moving countries and looking to move into the private sector, where she's having a difficult time because the requirements are for a prior private sector experience. So she's looking for advice on how to gain that first experience and how to make the transition.
yeah, that's a great question. And I think that what we were discussing before, right? The models are still adjusting, right? We say we want to have a skill marketplace, but again, you look at very hard job descriptions. So I think if I can say one thing is just by try to gain exposure. So who is already doing this that can be a great mentor to you or that you can talk to learn from the inside, right? So gain that types of exposure, but then seek like pro bono or like unpaid opportunities to experience that, right? Is there any way you can volunteer? So that's the approaches I would recommend in the minute that we have. But love to talk about this offline as well. So
Yeah, and Tamara says exactly that. She said finding
I
a
love
mentor
it.
in the specific domain you want to grow into is so powerful.
Yeah.
So, absolutely, learning from those that have done that switch, but also trying to make the story that aligns with the transition you're looking to do. I think this is this is something that very much speaks to hiring teams. When I made my switch from a 5 people company into 140,000 people company, that was another big switch, because I said, look, the connecting points are here and here and here and here, right?
Yes.
This is what I've been doing. I've been consulting companies from this industry to that industry, to small to big. I am the most flexible, adaptable mind, so for me this comes
Yes.
natural. Hence, I have no doubt I'll make this transition.
I love this, like
So
the power of articulating what value can you bring, right? So I think that's also a great way to go. Love that,
yeah.
Dana.
So no, I absolutely love the discussion. Let's continue it in the comment section of the event. There will be a recording for those that didn't get to watch the full discussion. There will be another discussion with another amazing leader in the coming month. I am already very excited about it. I am so grateful, Patricia, that you made time for us today to share your insights and experience. Very grateful for you also to share some more reading material for those that want to explore and continue exploring this space. And stay tuned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone. Bye.